So when filming shots of Bash, one of the biggest challenges we had was understanding where Bash was physically in the real world. We all had this rough idea of how big he's going to be and how he'd move, but then trying to film like this shot, for example, where he's running and jumping through the room is really difficult for us to be able to time up. You can have a rough idea of how quickly it takes someone to run around, but to get that accurately and to actually make it look like you're pointing the camera at him and framing it properly, it was a real challenge. And then it would rely on Dan, our animator, to take the camera movement and animate Bash in a way that fit the composition but still worked in terms of how Bash would really move. So now as we go back into starting to film more videos of Tim and Bash, we're looking at different ways we can improve how we go about every aspect of making the videos. We're using this new app called Jetset Cine, which came out earlier this year, and it's a virtual production app for the iPhone. And what it's allowing us to do is to bring Bash into the camera screen as we film. So we'll be able to actually see him moving around the real world physically. And that allows us to point the camera in the right places and kind of frame it up properly. But it's also going to help us at an earlier level planning shots and working on pre-visualization. So to take this shot, for example, if I go into Maya, which is our main animation software, we already have the animation here because it's a shot we've previously done. But if we imagine going back to shot planning stage, so imagine this is a much more rough animation that kind of lays out roughly where he's going to be moving and how quickly he moves. We've also got the scene scan. So this was the living room, and we used the iPhone's LiDAR scan to get an accurate measurement of the whole room. And so what we could do at this stage is start planning our shots and camera angles and camera movements in a much more organic and tactile way using this app. So I can't actually go back into this room physically. Dan's moved house, so we don't have access to this living room, but for this purpose it doesn't really matter, because what I can do is using the Jetset app, I can load this 3D object, the whole room, into the app, and then here I am in my kitchen where I have a good amount of space to move around. And using the iPhone's LiDAR and AR kit, the Jetset Cine can understand the physical space I'm in and how the camera is actually moving around in the 3D world as well, and overlay them. So you can see I've put the geometry of the living room on top of the real world. And now I can move around this virtual space as if I'm really moving around it. And that means I can now frame Bash and film him in a real organic way using a physical camera instead of having to do point and click animations in Maya. So this becomes a really powerful tool and way for us to be able to record camera movements really quickly and organically and experiment with creative ideas at that planning stage without having to kind of be constrained to working in a 3D software the whole time. Here I'm back into Maya, and I've loaded one of the camera takes that we've done. And you can see here the yellow camera was the original camera, but the red one now is the one that I recorded using Jetset. And you can see the difference is quite subtle, but you can see I'm now a little bit lower down, so I'm trying to get more to Bash's level and get better angles of his face. And also it's naturally framed a little bit more organically, where Bash is kind of leading and prompting the camera move. So for shot planning, this just unlocks so much creative potential because we're able to experiment and explore, but also later down the line when it comes to filming the shots for real, it'll be a massive game changer for us because we're able to actually see Bash in camera and be able to frame the shot properly, find the best angles and track him correctly without having to rely on that imagination.